Captain Lee Hana gripped the control panel as her mining ship Soul Dawn shook violently. The asteroid field around them was like a maze of floating rocks, each one bigger than a building. One wrong move, and they would all be dead. But Hana had been flying through these dangerous spaces for 10 years. She knew how to handle her ship. "Captain, we're getting something strange on the scanner," called out Park Min-ho from his seat at the communications desk. His young face looked worried as he stared at the glowing screen in front of him. "It's a distress signal, but it's not human." Hana felt her heart skip a beat. In all her years of mining in the outer sectors, she had never encountered aliens. Directly. Sure, everyone knew they existed. The government had strict rules about what to do if you found alien ships. Report it immediately. Don't get close. Let the military handle it. "Show me," Hana said, moving to stand behind Minho's chair. The scanner displayed a small blinking dot about 50 kilometers away. The signal was weak and getting weaker by the minute. Minho pressed a few buttons and more information appeared on the screen. "Life support is failing," he said quietly. "Whatever's on that ship, it's dying." The bridge fell silent, except for the steady hum of the Soul Dawn's engines. Hana looked around at her crew. There were only 6 of them on this mining run, good people who trusted her to keep them safe and bring them home to their families. "Captain," said Chief Engineer Oh Seung-min, his voice careful and measured. "You know what the rules say. We report this to Colonial Command and stay away. This isn't our problem." Hana stared at the blinking dot on the screen. The signal was getting weaker. Soon it would disappear completely, and whatever was on that ship would be dead. She thought about her own daughter back on Earth, only 8 years old. If Hana's ship had been disabled out here, she would want someone to help. Rules or no rules. "How long do they have?" she asked Minho. "Maybe an hour, maybe less," he replied. "Their power core looks like it's about to fail completely." The other crew members shifted uncomfortably. They all knew what Hana was thinking, and they didn't like it. Contact with aliens could mean prison time or worse. The government didn't mess around when it came to unauthorized alien encounters. "Captain, please think about this," said Kim Ji-won, the ship's medical officer. She was young but smart, fresh out of medical school with the highest grades in her class. "If we help them and something goes wrong, we could all end up in military." "Prison!" Hana looked at the screen again. The dot was barely visible now. In a few more minutes it would be gone forever. She made her decision. Minho set course for that ship, full speed. "Captain," Seung-min protested. "Someone is dying out there," Hana said firmly. "I don't care if they're human or alien or something else entirely. I'm not going to let someone die when I can help them." The Soul Dawn changed direction and headed toward the alien vessel. As they got closer, they could see it on their main screen. The ship was unlike anything they had ever seen before. It looked like it was made of some kind of crystal, all smooth curves and sharp angles that seemed to glow with their own inner light. But the glow was fading, and parts of the ship looked damaged. "It's beautiful," whispered Ji-won. "It's also about to explode," added Minho, studying the scanner readings. "Their power core is completely unstable. We have maybe 10 minutes before it goes critical." Hana felt sweat forming on her forehead. This was more dangerous than she had thought. If that alien ship exploded while they were trying to rescue whoever was inside, the Soul Dawn would be destroyed too. "Can we get a reading on how many life forms are aboard?" she asked. Minho worked at his controls for a moment. "Just one," he said, "and it's very weak." One person, just like her daughter, someone's child, was dying alone in the cold darkness of space. Hana's resolve strengthened. "Ji-won, get the medical bay ready. We don't know what kind of being we're rescuing, so prepare for anything. Seung-min, can we dock with that ship?" The engineer studied the alien vessel's design. "It won't be easy, but I think I can make it work. The docking mechanisms are completely different from ours." "Do it," Hana ordered. The next few minutes were the longest of their lives. Seung-min worked frantically to modify their docking system while Minho monitored the failing alien ship. The power readings kept dropping and strange alerts kept flashing. On their screens. "Hurry," Minho called out. "That power core is getting more unstable by the second." Finally, they heard the sound of the docking clamps engaging. Seung-min had done it. They were connected to the alien ship. "I'm going over, Hana." announced, grabbing an emergency breathing mask. "Captain, no," Ji-won said. "Let me go. I'm the medical officer. If whoever is over there needs immediate treatment, I'm the only one who can help." Hana hesitated, then nodded. Ji-won was right. She quickly put on her own breathing gear and followed the medical officer to the airlock, the inside of the alien ship was like stepping into a dream. Everything was made of the same crystal-like material, and even though the power was failing, there was still a soft glow coming from the walls themselves. The air was thin, but breathable. They found the alien in what looked like the ship's control room. He was lying on the floor, unconscious and barely breathing. Hana gasped when she saw him. He looked almost human, but not quite. His skin had a strange, shimmering quality, like scales made of precious stones. His hair was silver white, and his features were sharp and elegant. "He's beautiful," Ji-won whispered. "Can you help him?" Hana asked. Ji-won knelt beside the alien and began examining him with her portable medical scanner. "His biology is completely different from ours. Silicon-based instead of carbon-based. This should be impossible to treat with human medicine." "But you can try?" "I can try." They carefully carried the unconscious alien back to the Sol Dawn just as warning lights began flashing throughout the crystal ship. They barely made it to safety before the alien vessel's power core finally gave up. The explosion lit up the asteroid field like a small sun, but they were far enough away to survive. In the Sol Dawn's medical bay, Ji-won worked for 3 straight days to save the alien's life. She tried everything she could think of, mixing mineral supplements with electromagnetic therapy in ways that had never been tested before. Hana stayed by her side, helping however she could. On the 3rd day, the alien's golden eyes finally opened. He looked directly at Hana and spoke in perfect Korean, his voice soft but clear. "You have saved more than one life today, Captain Lee Hana." Prince Kaivan spent the next week recovering in the Sol Dawn's medical bay. At first, he could barely sit up without help from Kim Ji-won, but as the days passed, his strength returned, and his crystalline scales began to shimmer with their natural light again. Hana found herself visiting him more and more often, curious about this alien prince who spoke Korean better than some humans she knew. "How do you know our language so well?" she asked one evening, as she brought him a meal that Ji-won had specially prepared to match his silicon-based biology. Kaivan's golden eyes looked sad as he answered, "My people have been watching yours for many years, Captain. We know more about humanity than you might think. I studied your languages, your cultures, your history. I found humans fascinating." "Fascinating how?" Hana asked, settling into the chair beside his bed. "You never give up," he said simply. "No matter how impossible things seem, humans always find a way. My people used to be like that, long ago, but we've forgotten how to adapt, how to change when we need to." Over the following days, Kaivan began to tell Hana the truth about what had happened to him. The story was darker than she had expected. The crystal ship hadn't suffered an accident at all. It had been sabotaged. "My own brother tried to kill me," Kaivan said quietly one morning. His scales had turned a deep blue color, which Ji-won had learned meant he was feeling great sadness. "Prince Zarmoth couldn't bear the thought of me becoming emperor. He knew I wanted to change things, to reach out to other species like yours. So he planted a device in my ship's power core that would cause it to fail once I was far from home." Hana felt a chill run down her spine. "Your own brother? The Velnari Dominion is split in 2, Kaivan explained. "Half of our people believe we are superior to all other life in the galaxy. They think contact with aliens will contaminate our pure bloodlines and weaken our society. Zarmoth leads this faction. They call themselves the Purists. And the other half? We call ourselves the Seekers. We believe that isolation is killing us slowly. We see that our empire is failing, and we know we need help. But the Purists have more political power right now." As Kaivan grew stronger, he began to share more details about his people's problems. The picture he painted was troubling. The Velnari had once been the most powerful species in their part of the galaxy, with technology that seemed almost magical. But their refusal to work with other species was slowly destroying them. "Our birth rates have been dropping for 300 years, he told Hana during one of their long conversations. Couples who once had 5 or 6 children now struggle to have even one. Our scientists don't understand why, but I suspect it's because we've become too isolated, too focused on keeping our bloodlines pure. The food situation was even worse. The Velnari had developed amazing technology that could create any food they wanted from basic elements. But the machines were breaking down more and more often, and they couldn't figure out how to fix them properly. We've forgotten how to grow real food, Khyven admitted. For generations, we've relied entirely on our synthesis machines. Now that they're failing, millions of my people are going hungry. Their colonies were facing similar problems. Resource extraction had become inefficient, and many Velnari worlds were running out of essential materials. Some colonies had already been abandoned when their life support systems failed. But surely your technology could solve these problems, Hana asked. Khyven's scales shifted to a pale grey color, which meant frustration. That's the tragedy of it all. We have incredible technology, but we've become so specialized that we can't adapt when things go wrong. We know how to build quantum fold drives that can move ships across the galaxy in minutes, but we can't figure out how to grow vegetables without machines. He went on to describe some of the Velnari inventions that had amazed Hana. Their quantum fold drives could make space travel almost instantaneous. Matter converters could transform one type of material into another with perfect efficiency. Gravitational shields could protect entire planets from asteroid impacts or enemy attacks. Your technology could change everything for humanity, Hana said, her mind racing with possibilities. And your adaptability could save my people, Khyven replied. I've been studying human history during my recovery. Your species has survived ice ages, plagues, wars, resource shortages, and dozens of other disasters. Every time you found a way to adapt and overcome. You learned to grow food in impossible conditions, to heal diseases that should have been fatal, to work together when survival demanded it. Hana thought about the human colonies she had visited. Many of them were on worlds that should have been uninhabitable, yet humans had found ways to thrive there. They grew crops in artificial soil, built cities underwater, and created communities in the frozen outer reaches of solar systems. Your agricultural techniques could solve our food crisis, Khyven continued. Your medical knowledge could help us understand why our birth rates are declining. Your engineering philosophy of making things simple and repairable could fix our failing technology. Then why don't our peoples work together? Hana asked. Khyven's expression grew dark. Pride, he said simply. The purists believe that accepting help from humans would prove that the Velnari are not the superior species we claim to be. They would rather let our civilization die than admit that we need assistance from beings they consider primitive. And what do humans think about your people? Most humans don't know we exist, but your government does. They're afraid of us. They think we see them as inferior and would try to conquer or enslave humanity if contact was established. In some ways, they're right to be afraid. Many of my people do see humans as little more than clever animals. The conversation continued late into the night. Khyven painted a picture of two species that desperately needed each other, but were kept apart by fear, pride, and misunderstanding. The Velnari had the technology to solve humanity's problems, while humans had the adaptability and knowledge to save the Velnari from extinction. My coronation was supposed to happen in 2 months, Khyven said finally. I was going to use my new authority as emperor to open diplomatic relations with humanity. Now Zarmoth will claim the throne instead, and the purists will ensure that our peoples remain enemies. What if you went back? Hana suggested. You could challenge your brother's claim. Khyven shook his head sadly. By now he's told everyone that I died in an accident. If I return, he'll simply arrange for another accident, one that's more permanent this time. I have supporters among the Seekers, but not enough to protect me from assassination. As Hana left the medical bay that night, she couldn't stop thinking about everything Khyven had told her. 2 civilizations stood on the brink of disaster, and the solution to both their problems was simple cooperation. But fear and prejudice seemed too strong to overcome. She had no idea that the next day, Prince Khyven would make a proposal that would change everything. On the 7th morning after the rescue, Hana entered the medical bay to find Prince Khyven sitting up in bed, looking more alert than she had seen him since they pulled him from his dying ship. His crystalline scales were shimmering with a bright silver light, and his golden eyes held a determination that hadn't been there before. "Captain Lee Hana," he said formally as she approached, "I need to speak with you about something very important. Something that could change the fate of both our peoples." Hana pulled up her usual chair and sat down. Over the past week, these conversations had become the highlight of her day. Learning about the Velnari civilization was fascinating, even if the stories Khyven told were often sad. "What's on your mind?" she asked. Khyven was quiet for a long moment, his scales slowly shifting from silver to deep blue. Hana had learned that this color meant he was feeling very serious emotions. "There is an ancient ceremony among my people," he began carefully. "It's called the Binding of Worlds. It was created thousands of years ago when the Velnari first encountered other intelligent species. The ritual allows two different peoples to form a permanent alliance, one that becomes legally binding under galactic law." "That sounds like a good thing," Hana said. "Why do you look so worried about it?" "Because it requires both representatives to stake their lives on the success of the alliance," Khyven replied quietly. "If the cooperation between the two species fails within 7 stellar cycles, both people who performed the binding must forfeit their lives." Hana felt a chill run down her spine. "You mean they die?" "Yes, it's meant to ensure that both sides are completely committed to making the alliance work. The ceremony creates a life bond between the representatives. If one dies, the other dies. As well, if the alliance fails, both die together. That's—" Hana struggled to find words. "That's incredibly dangerous." "It is," Khyven agreed. "Which is why the Binding of Worlds has only been performed 12 times in Velnari history. But, Captain, I believe this is our only chance to save both our peoples." Before Hana could respond, the medical bay door slid open, and Kim Ji-won entered. For the morning medical check, she immediately noticed the tension in the room. "Is everything all right?" she asked. "The prince was just explaining an ancient Velnari ceremony to me," Hana said carefully. Ji-won began running her scanner over Khyven's body, checking his vital signs. "Your recovery is going well," she told him. "Another few days, and you should go be at full strength." After Ji-won left, Khyven continued his explanation. "Captain, when you saved my life, you did more than rescue a single person. Under Velnari law, anyone who saves royal blood gains special legal standing. You would have the right to represent all of humanity in a binding ceremony." "But I'm just a mining ship, Captain," Hana protested. "I don't have any authority to speak for Earth's government, let alone all of humanity." "That's exactly why this could work," Khyven said, his scales brightening with excitement. "Normal diplomatic relations between our species would take years to establish. There would be committees, negotiations, treaties, and endless bureaucracy. My brother would have consolidated his power long before any agreement was reached." Hana thought about the political situation on Earth. The colonial Senate was notorious for taking months to make simple decisions. Something as complex as an alien alliance could take decades to approve. "But what if I performed the binding with you, and then Earth's government rejected the alliance?" she asked. "Wouldn't that mean we both die?" "Not necessarily," Khyven replied. "The ceremony judges the cooperation between the peoples, not just their governments. If humans and Velnari begin working together successfully, sharing knowledge and helping each other, that would fulfill the requirements of the binding." The conversation was interrupted when Engineer Oh Seung-min entered the medical bay. He had been listening from the doorway, and his face was pale with worry. "Captain, please tell me you're not seriously considering this insane idea," he said. "I'm just listening to what the prince has to say," Hana replied. "You're talking about suicide," Seung-min exclaimed. "What if Earth's government rejects the alliance? What if the Velnari technology doesn't work with our systems? What if their people decide they don't want to cooperate with humans after all?" Khyven's scales turned a dark red color, which Hana had learned meant anger or frustration. "Engineer Oh Seung-min, my people are dying. Our birth rates continue to fall, our food production fails more each year, and our colonies are being abandoned one by one. Without help, the Velnari Dominion will collapse within 50 years. And humanity isn't much better off," Hana added, quietly. "Our colonies are running out of resources. Our ships can barely travel between star systems. We're stuck in a small corner of the galaxy, while other species have access to technologies we can't even imagine." Soon the entire crew had gathered in the medical bay. Park Min-ho looked nervous, constantly adjusting his communications equipment. Kim Ji-won seemed fascinated by the medical implications of the ceremony. Chief Engineer Oh Seung-min continued to argue against the idea, while the other crew members listened in worried silence. "Captain," said pilot Cho Hee-jin, "what exactly would this ceremony involve?" Kaivan explained that the binding of worlds was both a legal contract and a physical transformation. The two representatives would have their life forces connected through an ancient Velnari crystal. They would share some memories and experiences and gain enhanced abilities to work together. "It sounds like science fiction," muttered Seung-min. "Your medical officer has already proven that human and Velnari biology can be compatible," Kaivan pointed out. "She saved my life using techniques that should have been impossible. The binding simply takes that compatibility one step further." Hana walked over to the medical bay's viewport and stared out at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth with its billions of people struggling to survive in an increasingly difficult universe. Humanity had been alone for so long, fighting to establish colonies on hostile worlds, scraping together resources, just to keep their civilization going. "What would happen if the ceremony succeeded?" she asked. "Both our peoples would gain immediate access to each other's knowledge and technology," Kaivan replied. "Velnari quantum drives could allow humans to explore the entire galaxy. Human agricultural techniques could end our food crisis within months. Medical knowledge could solve our population decline. And if it failed, we would both die, and our peoples would remain separate and struggling." The room was quiet, except for the hum of the ship's engines. Everyone was looking at Hana, waiting for her decision. She thought about her daughter back on Earth, growing up in a world with limited opportunities. She thought about the Velnari colonies being abandoned as their civilization slowly collapsed. "How long do we have to decide?" she asked. "My brother grows stronger every day I remain missing," Kaivan said. "I estimate we have perhaps 2 stellar cycles before he claims the throne permanently and makes any alliance impossible." 2 cycles, Hana repeated. "That's about 6 weeks in Earth time." "Captain," Seung-min said desperately, "you can't seriously be considering this. You have a family. You have responsibilities." Hana turned back to face the group. "I also have a responsibility to humanity's future. We've been alone in the galaxy for 300 years. This might be our only chance to change that." She looked at each of her crew members, then at Prince Kaivan lying in the medical bed. His golden eyes held hope for the first time since she had rescued him. "I need time to think about this," she said finally. "This decision could affect billions of lives." "Of course," Kaivan replied. "But please remember, Captain, sometimes the greatest risks offer the greatest rewards." Word traveled fast across the galaxy. Within 3 days of Hana's decision to consider the binding ceremony, news reports were broadcasting on every major world. The story was too incredible to ignore. A human mining captain had rescued an alien prince, and now they wanted to unite their species through an ancient ritual that could cost them their lives. The reaction was immediate and explosive. On the Velnari homeworld, Prince Zarmoth stood before the Dominion Council and declared his brother officially dead. His crystalline scales glowed with righteous anger as he spoke to the assembled nobles. "My brother has been contaminated by contact with these primitive humans," he announced. "Even if he still lives, he is no longer fit to rule. The royal bloodline must remain pure." Within hours, Zarmoth began his coronation preparations. Anyone who suggested waiting for Kaivan's return was branded a traitor to Velnari purity. Several prominent Seeker faction members were arrested, and others went into hiding. The situation on Earth was just as chaotic. Colonial Command headquarters in Geneva was buzzing with activity as military officials tried to figure out how to handle the crisis. Admiral Park Jung-woo slammed his fist on the conference table as he addressed his staff. "Captain Lee has exceeded her authority in the most dangerous way possible," he declared. "She's made contact with a hostile alien species without permission, and now she wants to bind humanity to some kind of life-or-death agreement. This is treason." Arrest warrants were immediately issued for Hana and her entire crew. Military ships were dispatched to hunt down the Soul Dawn, but Hana had anticipated this reaction. She had already moved her ship to a remote asteroid field where they couldn't be easily found. The Colonial Senate was split down the middle. Half the senators saw this as an incredible opportunity to gain access to advanced alien technology. The other half viewed it as a reckless gamble that could end in disaster for the human race. Senator Kim Young-ho stood up during an emergency session and shouted, "We're talking about trusting our entire civilization to a mining ship captain who found an alien in space. This is madness." But Senator Lee Mijin argued back, "This could be humanity's chance to finally join the galactic community. We've been struggling alone for centuries. Maybe it's time to take a calculated risk." The debates went on for days, with no clear resolution in sight. Meanwhile, representatives from dozens of other alien species were watching the situation with great interest. The Galactic Arbitration Council, a neutral organization that handled disputes between different civilizations, decided to get involved. Council Chairman Veltar, a wise old being from the ancient Zephyrian race, sent a message to both Earth and the Velnari Dominion. The Council would hear arguments about the proposed binding ceremony on the neutral station Kepler Prime. Both sides would have a chance to present their case before an impartial panel of judges from various species. "This is unprecedented," Chairman Veltar announced. "Never before has the Council been asked to approve a binding of worlds between two species that have never had formal diplomatic relations, but the potential consequences are too great to ignore." Hana received the Council's message while hiding in the asteroid field. She knew this was their chance. If the Galactic Arbitration Council approved the ceremony, it would be legally binding across the galaxy, regardless of what Earth's government or the Velnari Dominion decided. "We're going to Kepler Prime," she told her crew. Engineer Oh Seungmin looked terrified. "Captain, half the galaxy thinks we're criminals. The other half thinks we're heroes. Either way, we're going to have a target on our backs." "Then we'd better make sure our presentation is perfect," Hana replied. The journey to Kepler Prime took 5 days. During that time, Hana and Prince Kaivan worked together constantly, preparing their arguments for the Council. They studied each other's military tactics, shared technical knowledge, and developed strategies that combined human adaptability with Velnari technology. Kaivan was amazed by how quickly Hana learned to understand Velnari battle formations. "Your mind works so differently from ours," he observed. "Where we see rigid patterns, you see opportunities for improvisation. And your technology is incredible," Hana replied. "If we could combine human flexibility with Velnari precision, we could accomplish things neither of our species could do alone." But their preparation time was cut short when Park Min-ho intercepted alarming intelligence reports. Prince Zarmuth had assembled a massive fleet and was heading toward Kepler Prime. He had no intention of letting his brother reach the Council alive. "He's bringing 12 battleships," Min-ho reported grimly. "The station's defenses won't be able to stop them." Kepler Prime was a marvel of galactic engineering, a massive space station that served as neutral ground for diplomatic meetings. When the Soul Dawn docked, Hana was struck by the diversity of beings moving through the corridors. She saw tall, graceful creatures with multiple arms, short, furry beings with large eyes, and mechanical entities that seemed to be made entirely of metal and light. The council chamber was even more impressive. Representatives from 47 different species sat in a circular arrangement, with Chairman Veltar's platform at the center. Hana had never felt so small and insignificant. "Captain Lee Hana of Earth and Prince Kaivan of the Velnari Dominion," Chairman Veltar announced, "you have requested permission to perform the ancient Binding of Worlds ceremony. Please present your case." Hana stood up, her heart pounding. She had prepared for this moment, but facing dozens of alien judges was more intimidating than she had expected. "Honored representatives," she began, "both of our species are facing extinction. The Velnari have incredible technology, but have forgotten how to adapt. Humans have learned to survive anywhere, but lack the tools to thrive. Together, we could solve both problems." She went on to explain how human agricultural techniques could end the Velnari food crisis, while Velnari quantum technology could revolutionize human space travel. To demonstrate their compatibility, she and Kaiven had prepared a joint presentation. Kaiven displayed holographic images of Velnari battle formations, while Hana analyzed them from a human tactical perspective. She pointed out weaknesses in the formations and suggested improvements that combined human unpredictability with Velnari precision. The council representatives were clearly impressed. Several of them leaned forward in their seats, asking detailed questions about the proposed cooperation, but then alarms began blaring throughout the station. "Velnari fleet approaching," announced the station's AI system. 12 battleships armed and hostile. Time to impact, 15 minutes. Prince Zarmoth's voice echoed through the station's communication system. "I have come to collect my treacherous brother and eliminate the human contamination that threatens our purity. Surrender the criminals or I will destroy this station and everyone aboard." Chairman Veltar looked shocked. "This is an outrageous violation of neutral space. How dare you threaten the Arbitration Council?" The station's defense systems activated, but everyone knew they weren't designed to fight off a full battle fleet. Kepler Prime was meant to be neutral ground, not a fortress. Hana felt her military training kick in. "Chairman, do you have any human ships in the area?" "A small patrol squadron, perhaps 8 fighters." "And what defensive systems does the station have?" "Standard shields and point defense guns, but nothing that could stop battleships." Hana looked at Kaiven. "Can you access the station's defensive systems?" "If they use standard galactic protocols, yes." "Then let's show them what human Velnari cooperation can really accomplish." Working together, they took control of the station's defenses. Hana coordinated the human fighter squadron using tactics she had learned during her military service, while Kaiven enhanced the station's shields using advanced Velnari technology. The combination was devastating to Zarmoth's attacking fleet. Human fighters, guided by Hana's unpredictable strategies and protected by Kaiven's enhanced shields, darted between the massive Velnari battleships like angry wasps. They targeted weak points that Kaiven identified using his knowledge of Velnari ship design. The council representatives watched in amazement as the two species worked together with perfect coordination. Every move Hana made was perfectly complemented by Kaiven's technical expertise. When human fighters needed power for their weapons, Kaiven redirected energy from the station's systems. When Velnari targeting computers tried to lock onto the human ships, Hana used jamming techniques that confused their sensors. Within an hour, Zarmoth's fleet was in full retreat. 3 of his battleships had been disabled, and the rest were too damaged to continue fighting. Chairman Veltar stood up slowly, his ancient eyes filled with wonder. "In 40 years of service to this council," he said, "I have never seen such perfect cooperation between 2 species. The way you fought together, anticipated each other's needs and combined your strengths, it was like watching a single organism with 2 minds." The other council representatives nodded in agreement. Several of them were talking excitedly in their own languages. "The vote is unanimous," Chairman Veltar announced. "The Galactic Arbitration Council hereby approves the binding of worlds ceremony between humanity and the Velnari Dominion. May both species prosper from this union." As cheers echoed through the chamber, Hana felt a mixture of excitement and terror. They had won the right to perform the ceremony, but now came the truly dangerous part, the binding itself. The ceremony. Chamber in the heart of Kepler Prime was unlike anything Hana had ever seen. The circular room was carved from a single piece of black stone that seemed to absorb light, making the massive crystal at its center shine even brighter. The resonance crystal stood 3 meters tall, its surface covered in patterns that shifted and moved like living things. Representatives from 47 different species filled the viewing galleries that surrounded the chamber. Some beings floated in the air, others stood on multiple legs, and a few existed as pure energy contained in special suits. All of them had come to witness something that had never happened before, a binding of worlds between 2 species that had been enemies just weeks ago. Hana stood at the edge of the ceremonial circle, wearing the simple blue uniform of a colonial mining captain. She felt completely out of place among all these alien dignitaries, but Prince Kaiven had insisted that she dress as herself, not as some formal representative. "The ceremony must be genuine," he had explained earlier. You are not here as a diplomat or politician. You are here as Captain Lee Hana, the human who chose to save a life when she could have followed orders and stayed safe. Khyven stood across from her, his crystalline scales shimmering with nervous energy. The ancient Velnari ceremonial robes he wore were made of fabric that seemed to be woven from starlight itself, but his golden eyes were focused entirely on. Hana Chairman Veltar stepped forward, his aged voice carrying easily through the chamber despite its size. We gather today to witness a binding of worlds, an ancient ritual that will unite the destinies of two species. Captain Lee Hana of Earth and Prince Khyven of the Velnari Dominion have chosen to stake their lives on the success of their people's cooperation. The chairman gestured toward the crystal. The resonance crystal before you was created by the first civilization to achieve interstellar travel over 10,000 years ago. It has the power to link two life forces permanently, sharing memories, experiences, and even genetic information. Once you begin this ceremony, there is no turning back. Hana felt her hands trembling slightly. She had made this decision days ago. But now that the moment was here, the reality of what she was about to do hit her with full force. If the alliance between humans and Velnari failed for any reason, she would die. Not just her, but Khyven. "Tu, are you ready?" Chairman Veltar asked. "Yes," both Hana and Khyven replied at the same time. They stepped forward together and placed their hands on opposite sides of the crystal. The moment their palms touched its surface, everything changed. The crystal began to glow with a soft blue light that quickly grew brighter. Hana felt a strange tingling sensation running up her arms, and then suddenly her mind was no longer her own. Memories that weren't hers flooded her consciousness. She saw the Velnari homeworld as it had been centuries ago, with crystal cities that touched the clouds and gardens that glowed with their own inner light. She experienced the pride of a young Velnari prince learning to pilot his first starship, the weight of responsibility when he realized his people were dying, and the desperate hope he felt when he first learned about human adaptability. At the same time, she felt her own memories flowing out of her mind and into Khyven's, her childhood on Earth's lunar colony, where every drop of water was precious and every meal had to be carefully rationed. Her years in the colonial navy, learning to think quickly and adapt to impossible situations. The moment she decided to become a mining captain so she could explore the galaxy and maybe find something better for her daughter's future. The crystal pulsed brighter and the sensation intensified. Hana could feel her very DNA beginning to change. Velnari genetic information was merging with her human cells, enhancing her brain's ability to process complex patterns and tactical information. Her thoughts became clearer and faster, as if someone had upgraded the computer in her head. Across from her, she could sense similar changes happening to Khyven. His rigid Velnari neural pathways were becoming more flexible, gaining the human ability to adapt and improvise. The emotional barriers that his species had developed over centuries of isolation were dissolving, replaced by the emotional resilience that had helped humans survive on dozens of hostile worlds. The watching aliens gasped as both participants began to glow with the same light as the crystal. Hana's hair lifted around her head, as if she were floating underwater, and Khyven's scales shifted through colors that had never been seen before. But just as the ceremony reached its peak, alarms began blaring throughout the station. "Security. Alert," the station's AI announced. "Unauthorized vessels detected in Docking Bay 7. Armed intruders are moving toward the ceremony chamber." Through her new enhanced awareness, Hana immediately understood what was happening. Prince Zarmoth had managed to sneak a strike team onto the station while his fleet retreated. He was making one last desperate attempt to stop the ceremony. The doors to the chamber burst open, and a dozen Velnari soldiers in combat armor stormed inside. Leading them was Prince Zarmoth himself, his scales dark with rage and his eyes burning with hatred. "Stop this abomination," he screamed, raising a weapon that crackled with energy. "I will not allow my brother to contaminate our bloodline with these primitive animals." But something amazing happened. Instead of panicking or trying to hide, Hana and Khyven moved together with perfect coordination. The binding ceremony wasn't complete yet, but enough of a connection had formed that they could anticipate each other's thoughts and actions. Hana analyzed the tactical situation with her newly enhanced processing abilities, while Kaivan accessed the station's security systems through his connection to Velnari technology. She saw instantly that Zarmoth's soldiers were arranged in a standard Velnari assault formation designed to overwhelm opponents through superior firepower. At the same moment, Kaivan understood exactly how to counter that formation using human-style guerrilla tactics. Without speaking, they both knew what to do. Hana rolled behind the crystal for cover while simultaneously triggering the chamber's emergency lighting, plunging the room into darkness. Kaivan used his access to the station's systems to activate the gravity generators in random patterns, making it impossible for the soldiers to maintain their formation. The watching alien representatives scrambled for safety as energy beams flashed through the darkness. But Hana and Kaivan moved through the chaos like dancers, each one always knowing exactly where the other would be. Using her knowledge of human combat techniques enhanced by Velnari tactical processing, Hana disabled 3 soldiers before they even realized she had moved. Kaivan channeled her improvisational fighting style through Velnari technology, turning the chamber's decorative elements into weapons and traps. Prince Zarmoth found himself fighting not one opponent, but 2 beings, who moved as if they shared a single mind. Every strategy he tried was anticipated and countered before he could complete it. When he aimed at Hana, Kaivan was already moving to protect her. When he tried to flank Kaivan, Hana was there to block his path. Within minutes, all of Zarmoth's soldiers were unconscious on the floor, and the rebellious prince himself was trapped in an energy field generated by the station's security systems. "Impossible," he gasped, staring at his brother and the human captain. "You've only just met. How can you fight together like that?" "Because we chose cooperation over fear," Kaivan replied, his scales now showing colors that had never existed in pure Velnari genetics. "Because we decided that working together makes us stronger, not weaker." Chairman Veltar emerged from behind his protective barrier, looking amazed. "The binding ceremony is complete," he announced. "Never in galactic history have we seen such perfect unity between 2 different species." The crystal's light began to fade, but the connection between Hana and Kaivan remained. They could feel each other's thoughts and emotions, not intrusively, but like a warm presence at the edge of consciousness. "How do you feel?" Kaivan asked her. Hana smiled, marveling at how clearly she could now see patterns and possibilities that had been invisible before. "Different, better, like I've been upgraded." "Me too," he replied. "I feel more flexible, more able to adapt to new situations." News of the successful binding spread across the galaxy within hours. On Earth, the Colonial Senate voted unanimously to support the alliance, after seeing footage of Hana and Kaivan working together during the attack. On the Velnari homeworld, the Seeker faction used Zarmoth's failed coup attempt to seize control of the government and crown Kaivan as emperor. The results of the alliance exceeded everyone's expectations. Human agricultural experts arrived on Velnari worlds within weeks, bringing with them simple but effective farming techniques that ended food shortages almost immediately. Velnari engineers shared their quantum drive technology with human scientists, allowing the construction of ships that could cross the galaxy in days instead of years. Captain Lee Hana became Earth's first galactic ambassador, splitting her time between worlds and helping to negotiate humanity's entry into the galactic community. Prince Kaivan, now Emperor Kaivan, transformed the Velnari Dominion from an isolated empire into a thriving civilization that welcomed cooperation with other species. But perhaps most importantly, the binding had proven something that many species in the galaxy had forgotten, that differences in biology, culture, and history didn't have to be barriers. When beings chose to work together instead of fighting each other, they could accomplish things that neither could achieve alone. Years later, when historians wrote about the binding of worlds, they would call it the moment when humanity truly joined the galactic community. But for Hana, it would always be remembered as the day she learned that the greatest adventures began when you chose to help someone in need, even when it seemed impossible. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders, and now humanity had the chance to explore all of it.